Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Taco Podcast. So, today is an extension on the YouTube short video that I released on Friday. So many people have reached out from Friday to today, Saturday, when I'm actually recording this, to ask, more in depth. What maybe you have a child, or a grandchild who is a picky eater, but they don't have autism. Would these, rules and these tips and tricks work for any child who's a picky eater? And the answer to that is actually yes. When it comes to autism, and other disabilities to learning, you have to kind of cater things a little bit more towards that, the actual child itself. So these rules don't fit every single child, but some other ones that I didn't cover, tips and tricks that you can use to help alleviate the picky eater, and try to get them to try other things, to eat a more diverse diet. Is another tip is to stay consistent. Consistency. Give them, especially those children who have, were on the spectrum of autism. And yes, I know a couple people had reached out and asked me, what about those who are, have Asperger's syndrome? Well, Asperger's is autism, and there is no difference. And actually, a lot of people who are in and familiar with autism, we don't like the name Asperger's, because it was a name that was given to a certain level on the spectrum of those who maybe they're more savant, side of it, or they're this side of it. But it was named after a Nazi, and that's where the name Asperger comes from. But it's all autism. And if you go to a doctor and they tell you that your child or your grandchild or someone that you care about is has Asperger's syndrome, you turn around and pick up your child and walk out, because they should know better than to use that terminology for someone on the spectrum. Okay, so staying consistent. Always be consistent in the time that you actually eat. And eat, the next tip is to eat as a family. Don't just feed them and nobody else eats, or you don't eat. Make it so you have a separate area, a dining room table, even if it's two TV trays, pointing at each other, two chairs. Sit down and make the routine that you eat together. But be consistent. Say 5:30 is dinner, regardless if I have time to make a meal or not. Even if it's just a snack, you sit down and you face each other. Now, a lot of those who are on the spectrum definitely have problems making eye-to-eye contact with other individuals. They'll look at you, but in their minds, they're taking snapshots of you, consistently. So they may not look down at you, and they may look up and then they look back down. That's just dependent upon the variation, where they are on the actual spectrum. So another tip would be reward good, and if they're willing to try something new, and like the other tip that I said is if you're making something different for dinner, maybe it's something that they normally don't enjoy, the pasta or salad or something like that. Reward the good behavior that they actually try something different. Hey, you ate some of this. Don't force them to do it. Again, don't force them to ever eat something more. Just offer it to them on their plate along with what they would normally eat. If they only are a picky eater who loves chicken nuggets, like my son does, he loves chicken nuggets. He'd eat them morning, noon, and night, and so much so, we actually have to keep them in a deep freeze outside of the home. We keep them in a deep freeze in the garage, because he will eat them frozen right out of the freezer. That's his favorite thing, is to eat chicken nuggets, and he'll eat them at any meal and every time he can, even as a snack. But have that item on there, and then have the new food with it. If they eat some of it, reward that behavior. Maybe there's a reward that they like above anything else. Maybe it's an Oreo cookie. So if they try a little bit of it and then they ate their chicken nuggets like they're always going to, don't put the cookie there on the table with them, but reward them directly after the meal that they tried something new. and say, here, this is a reward for for eating some of the salad or the pasta or the steak or whatever it might be that you got them to try, that's new. Another thing to keep in mind, another tip is to look for non-verbal cues that they don't like food. I mean, just like you and just like me, our tastes, and our desires of what we want to eat change through life. Maybe this week all they want to eat is chicken sandwiches. And then the next week it's just they want to eat nothing but French fries and ding dongs and Oreos. But look for nonverbal cues that they're not wanting to try something new, or if even if it's food that they've enjoyed in the past, and they just kind of pick at it as opposed to wanting to eat it. But you have to kind of keep your eye out and your mind open, looking for those nonverbal cues along the way. Another tip is that will help, especially if they have issues where they throw like a tantrum, or they get extremely upset. Read the facial cues that they're giving. They may not be able to express the emotion that they're really feeling. I'm going to use my son as another example here. My son gets extraordinarily frustrated when there is change in the environment around him, and that definitely affects his ability and wanting to eat. So even if, and I'm not joking here, even if we move the furniture, cleaning living room, maybe we rearrange the furniture somehow, sometimes even something as simple as that will be enough to affect their desire or wanting to eat. So if you can put together, again, like the TV trays, it's a great way to do it, and I've used this myself. 2 TV trays just facing each other, away from the dining room, away from the computers and the toys, everything. Even if you have to set it up in the middle of your kitchen, 2 TV trays and 2 chairs don't take up a whole lot of room. But you try to make it as sensory neutral as possible, so they feel safe in the environment. It's familiar to them, but it's also just slightly different from where they would normally eat. But it kind of gets them away from the things that may be distractions for them. But back to the tantrum part, if they get upset, particularly around mealtime, it's like, okay, you have to stop playing on your tablet. You have to put your tablet down. Make it so try to move them away from it. Talk to them and try to move them towards, hey, this is what we do, this is what we need to do, but don't be forceful and then, like, as in, sit your ass down and eat. You have to, especially with picky eaters, even if they're not on the spectrum, you have to try to motivate them to the point where they're actually, doing it. And you can use these tips for other things as well. Food is, a reward for, a lot of the people out there. It's not just something that we need to survive. It's a reward. If the reward thing, that you need to offer them, for trying something new, or, new food, or maybe it's they went to class and at school and they didn't have an outburst that day. A reward might be, to me and you, it might be, an ice cream cone from Dairy Queen. Maybe it's the same for the child, but it doesn't have to be, a banana split sundae. Maybe it's something small. Maybe it's, candy. Maybe it's, even a little piece of candy, like, a Reese's peanut butter cup or whatever they enjoy. But you want to make the reward available at all times, something that you can have and say, look, here it is. I keep, a little Ziploc baggie in my truck of little tiny candies that they're little hard candies, like the ones like your grandmother would have in that dish in your house, and that they're all stuck together in one giant ball in a dish somewhere. My son actually likes those because he likes to suck on them. Because my son and a lot of children who are on the spectrum, they have that sensory thing, so they like to chew on things, especially like on the collar, right here of their shirts. Or they'll chew on other things that are not like ink pens, pencils, but that sensory, it helps calm them. So, but we give him these little tiny pieces of candy. It can't be like a half inch by half inch, but they're the hard candies. But he likes to suck on them, so I keep a little Ziploc bag of them as a reward. So when I get his report from school that says that he did, or he had a good day, I give him, a piece of candy. I'm rewarding him, and he knows, and eventually they learn, that it's a reward for doing it, what was supposed to be done. Even if they're homeschooled, you can do the same thing. Maybe they got through that lesson that's always been difficult for them, or maybe they didn't get through the entire thing. Maybe they got through 25% of it today, and then the next day you try to build on that 25% to get it to 50% to get through that project. English, math, whatever, social studies. If you're homeschooling, and you use it as a reward. So these are just additional tips that you can use for not only in general life, but you can use it, for those who are picky eaters. Now, I have a niece, who is not on the spectrum at all, and she is a very, very picky eater. She won't eat certain colors of food. She won't eat anything that's green, and she won't eat anything that's red. Yeah, now try to eliminate how many foods think about how many foods that eliminates, that are green or red. But so we've gotten actually to the point where we've taken some foods and, with a little bit of food coloring in the water, like when we're boiling noodles, and, put 2 or 3 drops of food coloring in it to change the color so the pasta comes out blue itself. She'll eat blue. She loves the color blue. And we, little tricks like that, to try to get them. And you can put a couple drops of that into, a sauce and change it from red to, almost a brown color, but it's still tomato sauce. You just put a couple drops of black in there, boom, it changes the entire color of the food, and they'll love it because it tastes the same as it is to you and me, but it just happens to have a couple drops of food color in it. But again, just wanted to make this video for you guys to an extension onto the short, because so many people have reached out and asked me. Now, if you have an additional question, or maybe you have a trick that you've used to help, a finicky or a picky eater get over their aversions to certain foods, please comment down below. I would love to hear it. A lot of people read the comments. Maybe they don't comment themselves, but they do actually, read the comment section. And I really would appreciate if you'd also give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the Taco Podcast. We'd love to see more of you here each and every week. Then again, everyone, you have a terrific week ahead.